խոսում եմ You were watching ＳիվիլНեթի TV live on Facebook. I'm sorry, live on YouTube. We are coming to you here on this next day of public rallies in Yerevan from Republic Square, as we have been most nights since the demonstrations began over 2 weeks ago. Today we will be bringing you live simultaneous interpretation as we have been. We will be providing some context for what has taken place during the day, what we expect over the next few days, as well as being able to give you some summaries of what the speakers are saying on stage and how that impacts the situation here in Yerevan and across Armenia and what that means moving forward. To recap a little bit from yesterday and to look ahead to what we can expect, from the stage yesterday, Nikol Pashinyan, who's been the leader of the movement, has asked the audience to halt their demonstrations and their acts of civil disobedience. That would be today, Monday, April 30th. He said this because he said that they were going to be conducting meetings and it would be helpful to not have the demonstrations take place. Those were the words that Nikol Pashinyan said on stage yesterday. And today in Yerevan, no acts of civil disobedience took place. There were no marches. There were no shutting down of streets, bridges, highways, anything of that sort. It was a day for meetings and planning with government officials. There were different pictures that came out throughout the day. We saw Nikol Pashinyan meeting with the Yelk faction, dressed very differently than we've seen him, interestingly enough. Today he was in a suit, where in the previous days, a camouflage t-shirt, his pants, his backpack, as well as his dukhov hat. Dukhov inferring fearless. It's a Russian word, but written in Armenian that we've seen on the hats that Nikol has been wearing. Again, today he was not wearing that outfit. It will be interesting to see if he does change into that outfit for this evening's demonstration, as that is how he's presented himself throughout the course of this movement. Again, it was days of meetings, planning with government officials, as well as Parliament, where Nikol Pashinyan answered questions posed by members of the Republican Party. This was to help clear up some of the questions as to where Nikol's stances are in terms of domestic and foreign policy. And that was really the highlight, not the highlight, but that was a lot of the discussion, talking about relationships with the Eurasian Economic Union, the EEU, as well as questions as it related to Karabakh and what the policy would be there moving forward. It was a quiet day in Yerevan. A couple of the announcements that came out that the movement would really, something else that we are going to talk about is going to be regarding the vote in the National Assembly that's taking Prime Minister tomorrow, May 1st. Nikol Pashinyan was officially nominated as a candidate by the Yelk faction, and so he is the only candidate that is on that has been nominated for the position of Prime Minister. The Republican Party had previously stated that they would not impact or go against that nomination if all three other parties agreed with it, and at this point they have not nominated another candidate, and so as today was the 7th day since the resignation of then Prime Minister Serge Sargsyan, Nikol Pashinyan is the only candidate for the position of Prime Minister. No other candidates will be named going forward, and so the vote tomorrow will be whether or not the Parliament confirms Nikol Pashinyan or does not confirm Nikol Pashinyan as the Prime Minister. At different points throughout the day, we've had different announcements from different political blocs and parties. The Prosperous Armenia bloc, also known as the Zarukyan Alliance, announced that they will vote for Pashinyan as the Prime Minister tomorrow as a bloc. 31 of their votes will go to Pashinyan. The ARF Tashnaksuchun announced that they will do the same with their 7 votes. And so the Tashnaksuchun as a whole will be supporting Nikol Pashinyan's candidacy. The Yelk faction is supporting the Pashinyan candidacy. This brings the total of support that we know of to 47 votes for Nikol Pashinyan. 53 are needed for a majority. The Republican Party, again, as we mentioned, has not submitted or nominated a candidate for the position. They indicated as such. And so what we can expect is that they also said that they will not impede the vote. Therefore, they will be present in Parliament tomorrow, ensuring that a quorum will be met. A quorum is necessary in order to conduct this vote. However, we do not know if they will support Nikol Pashinyan in this case. Edward Sharmazanov announced that the Republican Party will be voting as a bloc and that they will announce what their voting intentions will be before the voting takes place in Parliament. However, that could be any time between now and before the vote takes place tomorrow, May 1st. So again, we will be waiting to hear what the announcement is from the Republican Party, as that will ultimately dictate what is going to happen in the vote tomorrow. A minimum of 6 Republican Party members will need to vote for Nikol in order for him to take the majority of the votes and become Prime Minister. If they're going to vote as a bloc, obviously that gives a unanimous vote to Nikol Pashinyan. If they decide as a bloc to not vote for Nikol Pashinyan, then in that case, Nikol Pashinyan's candidacy will not ultimately end up in a win in Parliament. That is the real big news. That is what we are going to be waiting to watch and follow to see how that plays out in Parliament, and ultimately that will be a big that will determine truly if at this time the Velvet Revolution, the movement, has truly succeeded. If that vote does not go in favor of Nikol Pashinyan, there are a number of steps to look at as to where the difficulties will be moving forward and what the rules are per the Constitution, per the Electoral Code. We will discuss those throughout the course of this rally today, and then again immediately afterward, where we do provide a summary of what was said and really look ahead a little bit more into what is going to happen. We thank you for watching us here on Facebook, on YouTube, on ＳivilNet TV. We encourage you to share this link out on Twitter, out on Facebook. Let your friends and other people know that we will be, that SivilNet TV will be providing live simultaneous interpretation, thanks to our friends at the Children of Armenia Fund for providing that service. We will be coming back at different points to talk about what is happening, and again, focus a little bit more closely on how the Republican Party can engage with the other parties within the framework of the constitutions, the position of strength that it has in moving forward, and how that will impact this movement going forward. Again, you are watching SivilNet TV on YouTube, and we will be back once the speakers begin with live simultaneous interpretation moving forward. Thank you.
Stop
We are back. We are having slight technical difficulty that we're working out, so please bear with us. We are coming to you live from Republic Square in Yerevan, again the public rally that is taking place tonight after a day of no demonstrations. We were just discussing a few of the potential outcomes of how the Republican Party can choose to engage with the vote that's going to happen tomorrow, how they can use their position of strength, really, at this moment. Again, we mentioned that they can choose not to vote for Nikol Pashinyan tomorrow, who's the only candidate nominated for the role of Prime Minister within the National Assembly. That was the last day to nominate was today. As we mentioned, if nobody from the Republican Party supports Nikol Pashinyan's candidacy and does not vote for him, in that case, per Article 149, Section 3 of the Constitution, we will be going back for a second round of voting within 7 days of the vote, which would mean on May 8th. If that vote also leads to no majority vote for Nikol Pashinyan, then at that point, under again Article 149, Section 3, the National Assembly dissolves, triggering new elections for Parliament, which would then be held under the current electoral law. Something we discussed yesterday was that situation being not necessarily favorable to the opposition to this protest movement. One of the messages they've been saying is the goal of striving for free and fair and transparent elections. If the election is held under the old law, it would also be held under the auspices of the Republican Party, which is one of the stands that the opposition movement has taken, is that the Republican Party has been administering the last few elections, and therefore that is what they are fighting. And so from their perspective, they would not want the process to be held under the old laws without any modification and with the Republican Party at the helm. Now that's one option, or that is one of the scenarios. A second scenario, the Republican Party can choose to vote for Nikol Pashinyan and confirm him as Prime Minister. If Nikol becomes Prime Minister, he would then be working with a parliament that is, at this moment, a majority Republican-held parliament. The Republican Party would then have the opportunity to act in opposition to the Prime Minister, making it difficult to enact and pass legislation. So again, that would be another way in which the Republican Party could engage or not engage with the elected government as it would be constructed. Again, going back to yesterday, one of the points we made, and referring back to here to point one, there would be two other elections that the opposition party would want to then have, or two other votes that they would like to call, one of them being to modify current electoral law, and then the third being to vote for new parliamentary elections. If the Republican Party decides not to play ball, as it were, with their majority and with Nikol as Prime Minister, we would see those two groups come to butt heads again, and it would be a difficult process at that point for the opposition to move forward within the construct of the Constitution. The opposition movement has indicated that they are willing to remain and take to the streets to show that the people's mandate that they believe they have, and that they believe they have shown throughout the course of this process. Again, those are two of the ways in which the Republican Party can choose or can choose not to engage with the current process, either by not voting for Nikol Pashinyan entirely on two separate occasions, therefore leading to a dissolution of the parliament, which would then trigger new snap elections, or they can choose to vote for Nikol Pashinyan and work as the majority party, working against the minority parties as well as the prime minister. And so those are a couple of the options or a couple of the scenarios ahead that we will be keeping an eye on. SivilNet.am is where you can find the website here for SivilNet. We have been providing articles and updates, live blogs throughout the course of this protest movement to keep our readers engaged and up to date on what is happening. You can follow SivilNet TV on Twitter and on Facebook at that address, SivilNet TV. SivilNet TV on Facebook will be providing an Armenian live stream. On Twitter, we will be providing updates and conversation as to what is happening. If you'd like to engage in that conversation, please go and follow SivilNet at twitter.com at civilnet.am. And so you can find us there and participate in that conversation. We will be coming back in just a little bit. We do expect that this rally will start soon, whereas the first few rallies they did hold starting pretty late in the day and later than they planned. Yesterday and recently they have been sticking to their time, announced time, and they have been holding slightly shorter rallies, which we do believe that and expect will happen here today. So please stay with us. You will be seeing views of Republic Square in Yerevan. You will see the signs and banners that are being held up throughout the square, a number of different pictures of individuals as well. Please engage with us on Facebook and on Twitter, and we will be coming to you once the speakers begin with simultaneous Armenian to English interpretation, as well as context and summary throughout the course of the rally here today. We'll be back shortly with that. cackle coming from the audience as people in Yerevan's Republic Square are waiting for Nikol Pashinyan and others to come to the stage and speak. If you're looking at the view that we're providing, the CivilNet is providing on YouTube, you can see in the bottom right corner there's a blue hat that says Nigola Yesem. Yesterday in the crowd, apparently different individuals associated with the opposition movement were passing out different hats to people, some colored white, some colored blue. On it they say Nigola Yesem in reference to Nigol's statements on the stage and otherwise saying that he's there to represent each individual, and each individual will therefore then be the prime minister, the Varshabed, that would then take office. When those hats were passed out, you could see in the videos that people were very excited, rapidly trying to jump and grab those hats for themselves. You can go on to civilnet.am, where we have a photo album up that shows some of the images from yesterday and some striking images with individuals wearing those hats, providing an interesting context to the conversation and the faces and energy of the people in Yerevan's Republic Square. Once again, today is it's April 30th. It's Monday. This was a day where Nikol Pashinyan asked for no acts of civil disobedience to take place, no demonstrations to take place, but he did say that there will be the rally, as always, or that has been taking place at 7 o'clock. CivilNet is bringing that to you live on YouTube. You can follow the conversation on Twitter as well as on Facebook on our CivilNet TV channels. We will be providing quick updates on those channels as to what's happening if you can't watch it live, but please do stick with us in order to hear live simultaneous Armenian to English interpretation, as well as context and summaries after the speakers and at the end of the rally.
Հարգելի դիտողներ, քիչ անց կմեկնարկի հանրահավաքը հանրապետության հրապարակում։ Նշեմ, որ սա փաստորեն վերջին հանրահավաքն է վաղվա ընտրություններից առաջ, որոնք նախատեսված են ժամը 12-ին ազգային ժողովում։ Հայ հեղափոխական դաշնակցությունը, Ծառուկյան դաշինքը եւ Ելդաշինքը հայտարարել են, որ աջակցելու են ժողովրդի թեկնածուին Նիկոլ Փաշինյանը եւ քվեարկելու են նրա օգտին, իսկ Հանրապետական կուսակցությունը հայտարարել է, որ իրենց տեսակետը կհայտնեն քննարկումից, քվեարկությունից առաջ։ Նշեմ, որ Նիկոլ Փաշինյանին վարչապետ ընտրվելու համար անհրաժեշտ է առնվազն Հանրապետական կուսակցությունից 6 ձայն, որպեսզի կարողանա ապահովի համապատասխան քվեները։ Այսօր բավականին երկար քննարկում տեղի ունեցավ, հարցուպատասխան տեղի ունեցավ ազգային ժողովում, ինչպես հանրապետական կուսակցության պատգամավորների, այնպես էլ մյուս խմբակցությունների ներկայացուցիչների հետ։ Բավականին թեժ էր հենց հանրապետական կուսակցության հետ քննարկումները, նրան հարցեր են տալիս ապագա իր անելիքների վերաբերյալ, թե ինչ պլաններ ունի արտաքին քաղաքականության հետ կապված, ներքին խնդիրների հետ կապված, անգամ հարցնում են, թե երբ է գործարկվելու նայրիտը։ Նիկոլ Փաշինյանը նշեց, որ այդ հարցերին ավելի մանրամասն կանդրադառնա արդեն ընտրվելուց հետո։
Welcome those who are watching CivilNet TV live on Facebook and on YouTube. You can see Nikol Pashinyan just coming on stage wearing the familiar Dukhov hat, however not wearing the camouflage shirt that we are used to seeing him in, and also without his backpack, which has taken on a life of its own, as there is a full Twitter feed for it. And there he is, passing out hats. As we mentioned, people are very excited about the hats, always interested to see what is written on the hat, what color it is. Yesterday he was wearing the Armenian tricolored hat. Yesterday he had the red hat with Dukhov on it. Dukhov again meaning fearless. in Russian, but with Armenian lettering here. Again, Nikol Pashinyan is on stage. We do expect the rally to start very shortly. Here live from Republic Square in Yerevan. We mentioned that earlier the time for nominations for candidates for Prime Minister had been closed, and so Nikol Pashinyan is the only candidate that has been nominated for the role of Prime Minister within the Assembly, the National Assembly. We will see the results of the vote tomorrow on Tuesday, May 1st. What is known is the Yelp faction, the Zarukian Alliance, as well as the ARF Tashnakuchun are going to put their votes behind Nikol Pashinyan's candidacy. We are waiting to hear what the Republican Party is going to do. They announced that they will announce what they are going to do before the vote takes place. But at this point, we do not know how they will behave in that vote tomorrow within the party. Will 6 people vote for Pashinyan? Will the entire bloc vote for Pashinyan? Will the entire bloc not vote for Pashinyan? That remains to be seen, as 6 votes are needed outside of the current support that Pashinyan has in order to reach a majority of the votes in parliament. You see Ararat Mirzoyan is on stage, Dikran Avinyan is on the stage, along with Nikol Pashinyan, as you saw. People are ready and waiting. They've been chanting Nikol. We will be bringing you simultaneous interpretation here on YouTube with ＳիվիլΝեթի TV. We will be providing context and summaries as to what's happening. We've already talked a little bit about the vote that will take place, who is the coalition and who are currently, again, with the Republican Party against. Earlier today, Nikol Pashinyan was holding different meetings with different groups, including the Yelp faction earlier in the day. He then was present in a session of Parliament where he was asked a number of questions from the Republican Party regarding his positions on policy, foreign and domestic, and specifically those questions focused on Armenia's partnership with the Eurasian Economic Union, the EEU, as well as the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh in Artsakh. Regarding the EEU, Pashinyan said that while he had been against the sudden shift to join the EEU previously, that as it did not serve Armenia at that time, he does not believe that leaving the EU now is in the best interest for Armenia and that the country would remain in it if he were to be prime minister. Questions about Artsakh were also raised. He responded that the focus is not a military buildup, but finding strategies to create a peaceful situation, avoiding civic disappointment, and fulfilling their promises referring to the statements made during the course of this movement. Again, looking ahead, it is going. Those were the questions asked by the Republican Party today during that session. There were more questions about those 2 topics, and you can find transcripts of that as well. We have that on some of that information on civilnet.am. We have some of that discussion that happened on Facebook as well as on our Twitter account. So please go through and look through those conversations, be a part of those conversations. Like, share, follow on the different social media networks. Let people know that we will be providing simultaneous interpretation here on YouTube, as well as providing context of these discussions. Now it looks like, oh, there is a full flag that says Dukhov now live on stage. Again, this statement has become very popular amongst the people in Armenia, amongst the crowds at the opposition rallies. Hats were just passed out by Nikol with that saying on them. Again, that saying, it's a Russian word, and it means fearless, or most closely translated would mean fearless. You see Arsene Khanjian on stage, you see Zara Batoyan on stage. A lot of the familiar faces that we've seen over the course of these weeks. Ararat Mirzoyan, Araik Haruchunyan is there. We expect the faces and speakers to be familiar. The interesting point are what we can, Ruben Rubinyan on stage, what we are looking at and looking forward to in these speeches will be anything that has come out of the discussions today with different government officials, where things potentially stand, or maybe we won't hear that. And so we'll be left to be waiting until the vote takes place tomorrow, May 1st, to determine if Nikol Pashinyan will be confirmed as Prime Minister of Armenia. Again, that vote requires a majority of the vote within Parliament. 53 votes are needed. Arsine Khanjan on stage, holding up her hat. She was just waving to the audience. We are close, it looks like, to the time for the rally to start. We will take a step back at this moment. As soon as our speakers start, we will have our simultaneous interpretation taking place, so please stick with us here on YouTube with ＳիվիլՆեթի TV.
Shall we
Armenian Gregorian is now coming to you from the stage at the public rally, live from the public square in Yerevan. You're watching ΣիվիլΝեթի TV on YouTube. We will now go to live simultaneous interpretation provided to you by COAF, the Children of Armenia Fund. Armenian Gregorian on stage making some house cleaning announcements. Something they've been doing recently to help the crowd have some more space. He's now going to start talking about what he's looking forward to, and so let's go into our interpretation.
I'd like to speak of some very important principles of future governance in Armenia. One of the important ones is that the foundation, one of the founding principles of governance in Armenia in the future is freedom. The authorities of the country have to first of all protect the fundamental freedoms of the citizens. Next, it is very important to consider that the principles of decentralized governance of this movement also transfer towards the central governance sector. And we believe that the cumulative capacity and wisdom of the Armenian people is something that we believe in. In order to complete it, to bring it to integrity, we will go for decentralized governance. We're also sure that the foundation for the future developed Armenia is the expression of the collective will of our people by means of fair and transparent elections. And that is the guarantee to the establishment of the authority of the people. And for that reason, in this phase of activity, we consider that the most important target for us is to hold fair and independent elections in the Republic of Armenia in the nearest future. There is one more very important principle we should speak of, as we're getting questions now on what is going to happen with justice. Well, I think that the international experience and the knowledge that we have prove that the best tool for ensuring justice is transitional justice, which means that all those that suffered previously suffered in the ruling of the former system, authority, governance have to be restituted sufficiently, fairly. That might take time, but we're also sure that transitional justice indeed is one of the most important tools that will provide all the ability to us to restore the credibility towards the system of governance. And now, I would like to invite here member of Civil Contract Political Party, Gնել Sanosyan. Good evening. Finally, I can see smiling Armenians. Indeed, very few people in the world will say that the saddest eyes are the eyes of Armenians. I can look in your eyes with pride now. I'm looking at the smiling eyes right now. I'm very proud that I'm one of you. I'm proud that we succeeded. We managed to reach a level in which we are all like one, a fist, united, cohesive army. And with all due respect towards everything that the people of Armenia have done, I'd like to speak of the regions. I am from Martuni region, and this is essentially the only movement that involves all the 10 marzes of Armenia, provinces of Armenia. And this is essentially the only movement that brought here not only the representatives of the regional administrations, the province administrations, but you should know that this provincial people also held their rallies in the regions. I mean, nothing of that kind ever happened in our regions. We stood up for our rights. We could hear people saying in Gyumri that Kapan was with them. We could hear people saying in Yerevan that Vanazor was with them. Nothing of that kind ever happened before. So these 10 provinces are the provinces of Armenia. We're going to come together. Finally, we learned how to struggle, how to fight. And from now on, in any region, any city, any settlement, we will stand against any perpetrations by the mayors, by the city councils or community councils. We will all then go and fight for our rights in their communities. We will become their guests right away. Those who act improperly in Alaverdi, in Aparan, anywhere else, will immediately see the people standing in the street with their hands raised in the air. And even if Ira's husband does something wrong to Ira, we're going to go to their house. So from now on, then by the way it was starting, Nicole cherished that hope, and we were with him. We turned that hope into the revolution of love and solidarity, and it's your love and solidarity that persists here in the square. I love you. And by protecting, defending these principles of solidarity and love, we're getting ourselves ready for tomorrow's victory. I would like now to give the floor to a famous swimmer who saved 20 citizens in Yerevan Lake in 1976. Everyone knows this person, Mr. Xhavar. I'm speechless, my friends. Can't find words. Mr. Pashinyan, it's my gratitude that I have to express, first of all. My great gratitude for everything that you have done, because the youth today, those in Russia, have invited me as an ambassador to tell you. I'm now their ambassador, the ambassador of the Russian youth, Armenian youth, to tell you that we are with you. We are by your side, and I'm sure those persons that will avoid the truth have to be silent here. They have no word here. Those who would deny this truth would be blamed, because that truth is in our hearts. This whole square that is full of Armenian people are here to assert it. And this is something divine, I suppose. This is a divine love that we feel towards one another. We are for this unity of the Armenian people, and it is this unity that will then create the beautiful Armenia. I love you, Armenia. Armenian people, I love you too. My friends, the youth, the children, I'm here with you, with my family. in Russia with 2.5 million Armenians. We're all with you. We follow everything that happens here in Armenia. You are our life now. Believe me, never doubt that this love will not be killed. It will not vanish. They can't kill it. I want to invite Armen here, Armen Jan. From the Russian youth. He just came to Armenia together with me to once again tell you that the Russian Armenians are standing by your side. Armen manages a big organization that is called We Are Together. That organization brings together youth from all over the world, and that youth is with us today. And there is this great love that really managed to show to the whole world. There is this huge work that you have done, this huge work that will never be forgotten. This moment wouldn't have come for 5, 10, 100 years if you were not there. So if tomorrow people don't win, then the world will collapse. And I wish you that victory tomorrow.
You are watching the public rally live from Republic Square in Yerevan. Armen Grigoryan is currently on stage. Our day's speakers have started off with 2 new speakers that we have not yet heard over the course of these a little over 2 weeks during these public rallies. We had Gunel Sanosyan, member of the Civil Contract Party. You just heard Shavar Shkarapetyan, an individual who came to the stage with great applause. He'd saved 20 individuals from Yerevan Lake back in 1976 and received a great ovation from the audience. Again, those are 2 new individuals. We do see the familiar faces of those who have spoken regularly over the course of the rallies. I'm sure we will get a few of those, but again, we've seen that right at the start. We have 2 new speakers that we have not yet heard. We're watching ＳivilNet TV on YouTube, bringing you live coverage of the public rally from Republic Square. Let's now go back to Armen Grigoryan on the stage in simultaneous interpretation.
Those who've found something, some lost things here in the square that they think that some other citizens have lost. So please approach us with those, and we'll create the small lost and found office here. So apart from that, we've been informed that an Armenian German citizen has lost some documents. Please bring those documents to us if you find them. And now I'd like to give the microphone to member of Civil Contract, political party member of Yerevan City Council, Zaruhi Bakoyan. Greetings. There is one thing that I would like to remind you of, that during this revolution we have all changed. We've become maybe better, much more courageous, daring, fair, and there were some fears that we overcame. So there is one more thing I'd like to remind you of. that today Mr. Pashinyan was answering the questions of his colleagues at the National Assembly. So I was thinking there may be some people who doubt that the revolution is not here for desolation, for destruction. Naturally, it is not. The revolution is here to improve, to upgrade, to restore, to make the governance better, to improve the efficiency of the public governance systems, public administration systems. And there are a lot of opportunities, of course. There are a lot of systems operating in the country already that are truly aimed at the development of our country, protection of the rights of our citizens. But those systems didn't work so well for well-known reasons. And today, after the revolution that is happening now, it will be our commitment, our obligation to improve what we already had. We're not going to destroy. We're not going to desolate. The public administration system, the public administration institute. The only thing that we will destroy are the stereotypes, the hatred, the barriers, the complexes that existed among us, those that would truly hamper the improvement process and protection of the human rights. Respectively, we all together, from now on, we will build, we will construct, we will develop our country. Dear friends, I'm sure that you can feel the revolution inside yourselves. And so, unambiguously, we have won. And now, I would like to invite a member of Civil Contract Party, Narek Babayan. Victorious, liberated citizens of Armenia, greetings. For years, we believed that we would win. In 2008, we would demand that victory from our own selves. But it would be procrastinated all the time. And now we have won, finally. We've won the lies, we've won the falsifications, we've defeated impertinence, we have defeated lies and falsifications, we have defeated the situations in which they would come and give interviews with taunting, with smile for 1.5 minutes. We have won over that taunting, we have defeated false smiles. My dears, there is not a single person standing in the square whose kings or relatives are not here or have not returned from the country to celebrate this victory. I'm sure there are people here whose relatives are now full of desire to come back to Armenia. I hear a lot of jokes where they say Serge Sarkisian kept his promise of 4 million with his resignation. This idea of turning the population of Armenia into 4 million was also stolen by the Republican Party from our program. Let me now bring this citation verbatim from the preamble of the program statement. There is only one sentence I have to say. The activity of the political party is aimed at bringing the population of the Republic of Armenia into a number twice larger than what we have now, which they would think is something mechanical to happen, automatic to happen, but that requires serious, fundamental reconstruction of the country. We are obliged now to have this bright process come to the victorious end. We are obliged to be cordially devoted to large, bigger repatriation that might happen tomorrow. Good luck. Thank you. Indeed, dear friends, we, in this month, we have changed. We have turned from just population into an exemplary nation. We have cherished, hopes, and given hope to all the people living in totalitarian regime. We have shown, we have proven that it is possible to have non-violent, peaceful actions and defeat dictatorships. You know that there are different people joining this movement from different parts of the world, mostly from diaspora. Among these are the Frontex from France, the Clou from England, Locarno from Switzerland, we've been also joined by Armenian NGO, and also Artsweek 30 Squad. From among Armenian communities, we have Dering Armir Afyur and Arax community of Echmiadzin region. These are those who have joined the movement. And now, I would like to invite a person that's been so appreciated by all of you now. Armenian my dear smiling compatriots, I haven't seen so many smiles yet in all my life. Everyone smiling at the same time, the same reason. And today, really, you have already managed to give me some part of your smiles, your joyfulness, and it is with your joyfulness that you've managed to implement the whole revolution with your fair demands that were heard, and with your hands raised in the air and with your smiles. Thank you. I'd like to use this opportunity, especially to address the youth and to extend my gratitude to all the youth standing here. This is the toast that I'd like to raise, a toast from my heart, or maybe I think that imagine such a beautiful struggle for freedom and independence that is happening now in Armenia. Thank you, youth. Of course, we are at victory now. In several hours, we will once again reinstate that victory. by voting for Nikol Pashinyan. Let's hope that this reality happens tomorrow. I'd like to say that revolution may stop then after the elections. Not the actions, but the process of revolution. I suppose that it's the civil disobedience process that will stop tomorrow. So I'm sure that there will be more interesting things said after my speech, but I would like to say that the work will start right tomorrow on the 1st of May. And May is the most beautiful month in the year, in my opinion. We will be restoring the free and independent Armenia, but also fair Armenia, not only free and independent. And the same is going to be done in the diaspora. But I have to ask you one thing. I'm sure that I believe in the ability of Mr. Pashinyan to do what he promised us to do. I'm sure that it will require some time. So I'm asking for patience among the people, that it's with the patience and with the love that you have to accompany him through all the actions that he has promised us to be done in the nearest future. You will continue your participation, and the revolution may not be implemented by your presence, standing here in the square, but with all those small works that you are now promising to do, with all those news in the country, because we are all going to be facing some new realities, and I'm sure that these realities are going to surprise us. However, if we are patient and attentive enough, vigilant enough, we have to stay here, and we will understand that these changes belong to us, and we are the ones that have instigated the process of change here in Armenia. I'm sure that in a much shorter period of time we will be able to implement everything to keep the promises that we're giving here. So today I read an article in French, though, and the article said that Armenia is an example for many countries. Or the same, Russia or Azerbaijan. Indeed, yes. So I was really smiling when I was reading that, because this revolution was really a beautiful one. And so we have to prove to the world that speaking about Armenia today so excitedly right now, and bringing all this attention, all these eyes on Armenia today, we have to really make this a great experience for us. And we will make it a great experience. And second, we mentioned the diaspora as a whole. My dear compatriots, there in the diaspora, we've all been attentively following the process, and if you've heard, I essentially talked that we have to stand by the side of the Armenian citizens, the citizens of the Republic of Armenia. I want to say once again that you are witnessing the whole process that takes place from the distant cities, worlds of yours in which you are now. But today Armenia becomes an example for the whole world, a good example for the whole world. And respectively, one of our main obligations is to keep that situation. We have to come to Armenia to be participants of the process, to understand the reality that are here in Armenia now and those that will start in or occurring in Armenia in the nearest future. So we have to be promoting immigration to Armenia, the repatriation of our citizens to this country from Russia, from the United States, from the whole world. We have to believe that the changes Nikol Pashinyan promises us will serve a bridge towards Armenia. And it is that bridge that Armenia and the diaspora will use in order to demonstrate to the whole world that prosperity is possible in this country. My dear diaspora, Armenia loves you a lot. believe me that this new Armenia is full of hope and even more hope and more ability, and I'm sure that we have to be participating in the process of turning Armenia into a better country. I'm sure Armenia is now ready to make all these changes, so we have to patiently, full of faith, full of love and hope, follow these changes. And my last word I'd like to say is the following. I'm really proud of everything that has happened here, and this is the proof of that. Great job for all of us. Thank you.
You were just listening to Arsine Khanjan coming to you from the stage in Republic Square in Yerevan. Armin Grigorian is back on stage, a freshly shaven Armin Grigorian, for those who have been watching. Excuse me. Again, we are coming to you from Republic Square in Yerevan. Today was a day with no acts of civil disobedience, as per the direction from Nikol Pashinyan. Instead, Nikol was meeting with different individuals from the Yelp faction. Earlier in the day, he had a session in Parliament in which he was answering questions from the Republican Party. We are interested to see if Nikol will be providing some information as to what some of those discussions led to, any conclusions that were drawn from there, any sort of direction that will be coming up for tomorrow's vote in the National Assembly. Let us now go back to the stage as Ararat Mirzoyan is now on stage to speak.
Good evening, my dears. Dear people, in all these days, we have been together. We've been in quite a frank dialogue. I've been the political team that initiated the process, and you've implemented the whole process. We've been in really open dialogue, and it is in this dialogue that every time, every second, you have demonstrated really astonishing wisdom to understand even faster and better way the whole situation. This has truly been astonishing. It's the skill of yours to wisely assess the situation. And the same on the 16th of April, when we all understood that Bagramian was not going to step back. We understood that from the French square we would come to the Republic Square, the same way we understood there was no point in spending nights in the streets. Just it was your wise decision when we understood we had to block the streets from 12 to 4 p.m., not earlier, not later than that. The whole world admires this wisdom and level of organization. And now, my dears, we are now facing a new phase that is final, victorious, but much harder. And we have to be several times more attentive, more vigilant, more wise, and better organized. And respectively, this is the phase that starts right now, and we have to very clearly understand what it is about. Tomorrow, and on the 1st of May, I'm sure that the National Assembly will elect Nikol Pashinyan as the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia. After the election, we're going to have an interim government, and this word interim is a key word here, because we have to expect the following from this interim temporary government, and this is what we have to demand from it. In my deep belief and understanding, this interim government bears 4 main functions. First, it has to provide as possible, as extensive as possible, solidarity, mutual understanding, provide for the proper operation, natural operation of this country, life, work, provide the most necessary solutions, economic solutions, that will be the guiding processes, exemplary processes that will essentially take the subsequent permanent government by the hand through all the actions that are being planned right now, and we cannot avoid. This is the reality. Third, we have to create certain mechanisms for the reforms in the electoral system. I mean, we are going to change the electoral code, and all the reforms that emanate from that amended electoral code will have to be taken, will have to be implemented. Apart from the electoral code, there are also a number of laws that are going to significantly impact the process of voting in Armenia. And finally, the fourth and the most important one is that the main mission of the temporary government is organizing extraordinary parliamentary elections. Nicole, Prime Minister. My dears, so now when we have understood clearly where we are, I'd like to appeal to your understanding. I have to ask you, I have to demand from you that in this process do not let us alone. Do not let us alone in this process. Do not leave us. You have to stand by our side in this process. More attentive, more wise, better organized, more frank, open, because there will be attempts to steal the victory from you. But we are there for that victory, and we will be there. Which means that we have final, complete victory.
We are the rulers of our land, is the chant that you're hearing from the crowd. Armin Grigoryan helped encourage that. He is back on stage. You are watching the live public rally from a public square in Yerevan. We've heard from a number of different speakers. Arad Mirzoyan was just on stage. Furthering some of the excitement they like to create in the audience, Armin Grigoryan is now encouraging the audience for those individuals whose communities have not been announced or whose villages, cities have not been announced here from the stage during this process. Let's celebrate those and announce those. So again, something that they've done for a while, recognize those who've come in from out of town and how they are participating in these protests. Armin Grigoryan is now going to pass the mic off. It sounds like crowd favorite. Sasun Mikhaelian might be the next speaker. Oh, and there he is on stage. Sasun Mikhaelian.
Thank you. Good evening, my dear friends. my dears, the achievement that we've had was really great. We would see destruction everywhere.
Sassoon's just calling out for help for somebody in the audience there, just waiting a moment as help is reaching that person. He said to the left of him on the stage. Again, Sassoon Mikhailian has now taken the stage at the live public rally in Republic Square in Yerevan. Again, another call for a doctor. To my left, he says, to my left.
Well, they say everything's so bad. It was bad during Serge. It is bad now. Believe me, it will be better tomorrow. Believe me. Well, they say people don't feel well. It's definitely because of the happiness they feel. So, my dear friends, all these achievements have ultimately resulted in a situation after all these years that all these processes that you were witnessing today do not exist anymore because of Nikol Pashinyan. Because Nikol Pashinyan created a whole army. The whole army that stands here right now, the army that will guide the Armenian people tomorrow towards Armenia of happiness, Armenia of joy, Armenia of pride, Armenia of dignity, and we will create such Armenia in which Armenians will live with pride. It is through these years those suffered who were not supposed to. Those who were not supposed to suffered. Those enjoyed who did not know the values. But I can look at you now. I see happiness. I feel myself Armenian now. I'm looking at you. I want my motherland not to be insecure anymore. I can see belief, I can see credibility, trust. And we have to. We have to do everything to maintain this. Because I'm sure initially you would not see the end. And now, through these fatal times, critical times, we will be able to start to create a great beginning tomorrow. Such a beginning that will prompt what the end is going to be. It is with this unity of ours, I may repeat, I have repeated already, that when the nation becomes the army, it will never surrender. It will never kneel before difficulties. These authorities, through these years, only brought happiness once. You know why? With their resignation.
Armen Grigorian back on stage after Sassoon Mikhailian just announced the audience, if you give me 2 minutes to make some announcements, I will then give you that which you're asking for, which the crowd was chanting Nikol. The public rally from a public square, you see the familiar faces of those activists and opposition leaders that have been leading this movement for over 2 weeks now. They are lined up on stage. We've heard from a couple new speakers that we hadn't heard before. We see the familiar faces. Zarui Batoyan spoke earlier. We just had Sasu Mikhaelian. Today has been a day where Nikol Pashinyan called for no civil disobedience and instead to have government meetings. It's going to be an interesting statement from Nikol to see what he says, if he can provide any clarity to what happened in those meetings and any sort of direction that's come out of them. You heard from Ararat Mirzoyan that with the assumption that Nikol is going to be voted as prime minister, and as we've spoken before, we do not know for sure if that's the case, but Ararat stated that the government that would be formed would be an interim government. He indicated that there would be 4 specific functions of that interim government, and we're going to get to those, but first let's go back to the stage. Nikol Pashinyan has just been introduced by Armen Grigoryan. The audience is chanting Varchabed, or Prime Minister, as Nikol is about to take the stage. Not his name, but just Varchabed, Prime Minister.
Oh, dears. The proud citizens of the Republic of Armenia. Tomorrow is the 1st of May. And we wouldn't be exaggerating if we said that the whole world is attentively following now the events that are going to happen in Armenia and its capital, Yerevan. It seems tomorrow the world finals for the football championship are going to take place in Yerevan. The Armenians in diaspora and Armenians in Armenia really succeeded. We have succeeded for the last 15 days to turn Armenia into a country that is being the most discussed in the world. And now our country is not forgotten. It's not just one of those distant corners in the world, forgotten ones. But our country is now a center of different events that surprise the whole world, admire the whole world, events that teach the whole world, events that are food for thought for the whole world. So that's what we have dreamt of. That is what we think Armenian people should be like. These are Armenians that have found their creative spirit, found its creative ability, essence, and will never lose that again. Armenia from now on will be the center of the world. In the morning today, I officially participated and was nominated by the Yelk faction of the National Assembly as the candidate for the Prime Minister's post of Armenia. At 1600 today p.m., the time for nominating candidates for the prime minister post was over, and it turns out there will be no other candidate but me. Three of four factions of the National Assembly announced that they will support my candidacy, meaning they will vote for the people's candidate for the post of the prime minister. And the Republican majority of the National Assembly has announced that they will not hamper, they will not anyhow create barriers for that election, which means the probability that tomorrow the candidate that has been put forward by you will be elected as the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia is very high. By now, up to this moment, it seemed to most of us that this would be the most important event in the whole political process of the recent times. But in fact, and indeed, today, already, we can say that the most important event, the most important thing has already happened. The most important thing happened just days ago, when it was obvious for all of us that in the Republic of Armenia, finally, there is people that has stood up, taking the control in its hands. So I want to say that it's not important at all who is going to be the Prime Minister of Armenia. Because the important thing is that the authority in the country is in the hands of the people now. There is people in the country that can take that authority anytime. That's the most important thing. And once again, the most important thing is that there are people in the country. And the people of Armenia now know very clearly, in the most details, what should be done if, once again, any time in the future, any authority of the Republic of Armenia tries to go impertinent, lose itself, contact with the reality, serendipity, understanding of the situation, and not recognize that the authority belongs to Armenia and to Armenian people. That is the most important thing that has happened in Armenia. There is Armenian people, there are citizens. And the citizen of Armenia says very clearly, sonorously, for all the people of Armenia and for the whole world, we are the rulers of Armenia. We are the owners of this country. And this is our velvet, non-violent people's revolution's most important result. And that result is not a motto anymore. It is the political reality. There will be other authorities in the Republic of Armenia, one after the other, prime ministers, governments, presidents, national assemblies, members of parliament, ministers, but the most important thing will not ever change in Armenia. The most fundamental thing will not change. From now on, the motto that you were chanting just seconds ago would prevail forever. Once again, do that, please. We are the rulers of Armenia. That is the rule from now on. And now, tonight, I also understood that it is not at all important. It makes no sense. Doesn't play any role what happens tomorrow at the National Assembly. The important thing, the essential thing, is that the citizens of the Republic of Armenia, the people of the Republic of Armenia, the Armenian people, has won. And that victory is irreversible. That victory can never be contested by anyone, ever. Victory. So before yesterday, we were thinking that we could hold just another rally here at the Republic Square. We were thinking we would demonstrate civil disobedience at our power, but no. Tomorrow, in this square exactly, the very square, we are going to organize the biggest celebration, festivity ever, because the Armenian people are going to celebrate the victory, the irreversible victory that belongs to them now. And so, I'm now urging all the citizens of Armenia from 11 a.m. tomorrow, start coming to the Republic Square. Do not go anywhere else. Do not block any street. Do not do anything else. No demonstration of disobedience, but just come to the Republic Square to celebrate your victory. Celebrate your victory, victory that belongs to you, the victory over disappointment, victory over emigration, victory over weakness, over uncertainty. So now, the understanding is clear that our dreams will start to come true because we do not anymore dream of free and happy Armenia. We are already in free and happy Armenia. Which means, my dear friends, that from 11 a.m. tomorrow, all the people from the regions, cities and villages of Armenia, all the citizens of the Republic of Armenia will start gathering in the Republic Square in order to once again clearly recognize that they are the owners, the rulers of Armenia. We are the rulers of Armenia. And it means, long live free Armenia, Republic of Armenia, viva Armenian people and our children who will live in this free Armenia. Dear friends, I've been told that there might be some misinterpretation of what I said. So let us agree on the following very clearly. From tomorrow, 11 o'clock, people will start gathering here. No other place to go. From 11 a.m. tomorrow. Here on screens, we are going to broadcast live the session of the National Assembly. And with your permission, we, with all of our MPs, will participate in that session, in that meeting of the National Assembly. Right after it, we'll join you here in the square. And it means, there's my special request to you. We don't need separate groups of people going to Baghramyan Avenue. Baghramyan will be open. Please, there will be no actions taken, neither by the government nor by the people. Gather here in the Republic Square, provided the screens are going to be installed here. Follow the meeting of the National Assembly, and of course you will see the results live, but independently from the results of the voting at the National Assembly. After the meeting, we will come here and celebrate our victory together and make conclusions together. Thank you. Victory. There is one more suggestion that I have, people. I would like to invite here to celebrate our victory by a song by a world-renowned singer Lilith Pipoyan.
Եվ ես ուզում եմ ասել, որ ես ուրախ եմ անչափ, որ մեր երկրում կստեղծվի այնպիսի պայմաններ, եւ ես վստահ եմ դրանում, ազատ, հավասար իրավունքներով, արդար, տնտեսության համար, որի պայմաններում հայ ժողովրդի ստեղծարար հանճարը.
You have been watching and listening to ＳիվիլՆեթի TV on YouTube. Bringing you live coverage of the rally taking place in Republic Square in Yerevan. You just heard Nikol Pashinyan on stage talking to the people the day before the vote is supposed to take place in the National Assembly for the role of Prime Minister. Let's go over a little bit of what Nikol said, as it does touch on a couple of the points that we've been discussing here at SivilNet. And let's sort of work through some of those statements. He initially started off by mentioning that the feeling and excitement that's going to take place tomorrow is going to be very similar to the feeling of a big soccer match or win. That was very similar to what people were saying on the street after the resignation of Sarkisyan, that this is what it must feel like once your country wins the World Cup. So again, a very similar analogy there. He did mention that no other candidates have been nominated for the role of Prime Minister within the National Assembly, within Parliament. He then went on to say that he indicated from the stage that the likelihood of the people's candidate, which in this case is himself, of being elected as the Prime Minister is very high. He said that this is due to the statement from the Republican Party that they will not create any barrier or obstruction to the vote, it said, to the vote itself. We've been discussing here at CivilNet, both online and during these rallies over the last few days, that while the Republican Party has said that they will not create any barrier to the vote, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will vote for him. Now, unless Nicole knows something that has not yet been announced, all we know as a reality now is that this statement from the Republican Party simply means that they will allow for a quorum and a vote to take place. Again, from a statement from Sharmazanov of the Republican Party, they said that they do anticipate to vote as a bloc, and that they will let the people know what direction they will vote before the vote takes place in Parliament tomorrow. That vote will be taking place in the session of Parliament tomorrow starts at 12 noon. Again, 12 noon is the starting point for the session of Parliament on Tuesday, May 1st. And so, again, we don't know if they'll vote for Pashinyan. We will come back to that in a moment to talk about what it means if they do or do not vote for him. Armen Grigorian is taking the mic back. Let's hear what he has to say. He is now just thanking the audience, thanking them for their excitement, their energy, reminding them to come back tomorrow in the Republic Square, in the Hrabarag, in Yerevan, as Nikol Pashinyan said, in order to celebrate their next victory. Again, Armen Grigorian reiterating that they want, and this is really what Nikol said to end his speech. He said that he wants to schedule the biggest celebration possible for the people of Armenia, the victory that belongs to the people. He calls out on all the citizens of Armenia to join together in Republic Square in Yerevan at 11 a.m. As we mentioned, the session of Parliament starts at 12. He explicitly said that they do not want acts of civil disobedience performed on the streets, no marches, no demonstrations, no acts of violence. He clarified afterward when he came back on stage to say that they do not want any people to line up in front of or near Bagramian Avenue, where the National Assembly is located. They want everybody to be in Republic Square, to be watching the vote as it happens, and then said that the members of Parliament will then join the citizenry in Republic Square. As a reminder, the vote that will take place tomorrow is it's an open roll call, and so if for whatever reason Republican Party members did not want to show that they voted for Nikol, if there's any dissension there, even though they have indicated they will vote as a bloc, a secret ballot would have allowed people to vote for others without getting their names out. But in this case, it will be an open vote, roll call voting, and so everybody will know who the members of Parliament voted for or voted against Nikol Pashinyan in this case. We will wait to see how the vote takes place tomorrow. The Republican Party, as the majority, does have the ability to block Nikol's confirmation as Prime Minister. They have indicated they will vote as a bloc. We will see what happens there. There are a lot of permutations that can happen from that point. If the Republican Party does support Nikol in their vote, they are still the majority party in the Parliament, and therefore they can impact any legislation or impact any discussion and the passing of laws that will take place over the course of these next few months as Nikol assumes the role of Prime Minister. Let's go back to one thing that Ararat Mirzoyan, when he came on stage, said. And again, we did want to thank the Children of Armenia Fund COAF for providing interpretation services here tonight. Going back to Ararat Mirzoyan, he mentioned that after the vote for Prime Minister, there will be, per the Constitution, there is then the requirement for the Prime Minister to install a government. Ararat Mirzoyan specifically said that this government would be an interim government. And he said there would be 4 specific functions for this interim government. 1 would be to build consensus. 2 would be to continue the operation of the country and look at economic solutions and exemplary processes to be implemented once a permanent government is formed. The 3rd point, he said, and something that has been discussed throughout the course of the movement and something that we have discussed here at CivilNet, is the need to change the electoral code from the point of view of the opposition and the necessary reforms that are needed there. Again, the 3rd point being the changing of the electoral code and any of the modifications and reforms that are necessary. 4th would be to then organize extraordinary parliamentary elections. This would then allow for the voting of the people to form a new parliament under new laws and modification of the existing laws. We have mentioned here at CivilNet that if the order of these processes happens any differently, if the changing electoral code and modifying of the code cannot happen first, and instead there's a vote to have extraordinary parliamentary elections take place, those elections would take place under the old rules. If the Republican Party decides at any level to not accept the agenda put forth by Pashinyan, if he were to become Prime Minister, after a period of 20 days, that would then dissolve the government and lead to new parliamentary elections, again, which would take place under the old electoral code, or the current code, I should say. So again, it would be important from the opposition's point of view to make sure that the changing of the electoral code and the necessary reforms there happen first, followed by the organizing of extraordinary parliamentary elections. You heard today from a number of speakers that we've heard from: Sasu Mikhaelian, Ararat Mirzoyan, Nikol Pashinyan, of course. Armen Gevorkian was hosting our event, the rally, the event tonight in Republic Square. We also heard from 2 new speakers, Ganel Sanosyan as well as Shavar Skarapetyan. Ararat laid out what to look forward to in the near future. Nikol Pashinyan sounded very confident that tomorrow the vote would be in favor of his confirmation of the Prime Minister. Follow civilnet.am and all the articles that are there in Armenian and English to understand what is happening, what's taking place, and what to expect moving forward. You can follow the conversations on Facebook and on Twitter at CivilNet TV. CivilNet TV will be bringing and following the coverage for everything that will be taking place tomorrow. So please continue to follow us, like, share, and let people know about the English interpretation. We will be bringing English interpretation to the program tomorrow as well, starting at 11 a.m. local time in Yerevan. So join us then on CivilNet TV on YouTube. Follow the conversation on Twitter and Facebook. We will speak to you later and continue to be providing you coverage of all that is happening here with the Velvet Revolution and the protests in Armenia.
Նիկոլ Փաշինյանին եւ քվեարկելու են նրա օգտին հանրապետական խմբագրությունը հայտարարել է, որ չի խոչընդոտել է վարչապետի ընտրությանը, սակայն արդյոք կողմ քվեարկի թե ոչ կհայտնեն վաղը հատուկ լիստից առաջ։ Իսկ մենք այսքանով ևս ավարտում ենք եթերը հանրապետության հրապարակից, նշեմ, որ վաղ առավոտյան կրկին կունենանք ուղիղ միացումներ ինչպես ազգային ժողովի ներսից, այնպես էլ հանրապետության հրապարակից։ Հիշեցնեմ, որ Նիկոլ Փաշինյանը կոչ արեց, որպեսզի քաղաքացիները վաղ ժամը 11-ին լինեն հանրապետության հրապարակում եւ էկրանների միջոցով հետևեն ազգային ժողովի հատուկ նիստին։ Նա նշեց, որ վաղը չեն լինելու բողոքի ակցիաներ, այլ լինելու է տոնախմբություն հանրապետության հրապարակում եւ քաղաքացիները տոնելու են իրենց հաղթանակը։ Շնորհակալություն Սիվիլնեթին հետևելու համար, ցտեսություն։